Hey everybody, welcome back. For the past couple of weeks, I've been reworking a big part of the game for one simple reason. People still didn't fully understand what the player actually does. I had a lot of systems working: gravity, the grid, enemy interactions, energy mechanics, but the overall game loop was still not clear enough. So instead of just adding more features, I started focusing on making the game more readable, more intentional, and easier to understand. One thing I kept noticing in the feedback was people liked the visual style and the systems, but they didn't always understand the actual game. And that makes sense. A lot of my recent work has been foundational systems: planetary gravity, surface-based movement, a reactive grid, enemy spawning, and energy interactions. But without a clear gameplay loop, those things can still feel more like pieces than a full experience. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to answer a simple question. What is the player doing moment to moment? And how do all these systems support that? The biggest shift has been leaning harder into a core rule that can connect the entire game. Opposite polarity collapses and same polarity repels. That rule gives a player a way to understand interactions immediately. Instead of random effects or enemy-specific logic that feel disconnected, everything starts building off the same foundation. So now the player is not just moving through a cool world. They are collecting energy, using polarity intentionally, and resolving threats based on readable interaction rules. The past couple of weeks have also been about making enemy interaction feel more meaningful. I don't want enemies just to exist as moving objects on the field. I want them to teach the players something. So part of this rework has been thinking more clearly about how each enemy should be resolved. Energy excitation should teach polarity. Lattice-style structures should teach positioning and route choices. Other enemies can teach timing, pressure, or reaction. That is where the game starts to become more than a collection of effects. Each interaction becomes part of the learning curve. The grid has also become more important during this rework. At first, it could have just been a visual layer, but what I really want is for the world itself to help communicate what is happening. So when the player moves, when energy spreads, when something collapses, or when combat happens, the grid can reinforce that with a visible feedback. That matters a lot because the game has abstract systems under the surface. The more clearly the world reacts, the easier it is for the player to feel cause and effect. And that is a big part of what I'm trying to improve. And not just the mechanics themselves, how readable they are in motion. What I realized over the last couple of weeks is that I do not need more disconnected features right now. What I need is stronger clarity. I need the player to understand the rules, I need the enemies to communicate their purpose, and I need the world to reinforce what the player is doing. That's the real rework. Not throwing everything out, not changing the identity of the game, just making the existing systems finally connect in a way that feels intentional. So that's what I've been working on over the last couple of weeks. Taking the systems that already existed and pushing them towards a clearer, more understandable game loop. There's still a lot to build, but this feels like the right direction because the goal is not just to make something technically interesting. It's to make something people can look at, understand, and eventually want to master. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next devlog.